Chamberlain with Our Lady of Guadalupe Catholic Church will lead us in our invocation, and Mr. Kenny Jenkins with the Street Outreach Coordinator for the Central Texas Youth Service will lead us in our pledge. Father, welcome.
And let us pray. Almighty God, I ask your blessing upon all of us as we gather today with our concerns and the needs of our community. I ask you to especially bless our city council members, the leaders of our community. Grant them wisdom and knowledge as they deal with the matters that are presented to them today, that they may make good and wise decisions. And all of us we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Mr. Jenkins?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the City Council meeting. First item of business this evening's agenda is to take care of a couple of proclamations and recognitions. First, we're going to recognize Professional Social Worker Month, and I would like to ask Patricia Lowry and members of the Central Texas Branch Steering Committee of the Central Texas Social Workers to come forward for a proclamation. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice to have a witness this evening.
What you guys do with Bill Burning tonight? Where's Bill? He is. All right. Let's tell him we missed it.
Speaking Spanish.
I think this is probably the fourth or fifth year we've done this at least, and we appreciate the opportunity. From the Office of the Mayor of the City of Temple, whereas social workers are men and women committed to improving the lives of others. They believe in the intrinsic worth of each individual and believe there are no limits to human potential. Whereas social workers are compassionate and committed to providing assistance to the citizens of our great state. Those dedicated professionals, have help to provide individuals in need with the resources and opportunities to be self-sufficient. Whereas social workers work in private practice, agencies, organizations, health and government institutions to provide services that support successful functioning of individuals, families, and communities. Whereas social workers are dedicated to enhancing the well-being of individuals, families, and communities in Texas, our nation, and throughout the world. And whereas social workers have strengthened our communities, empowered individuals, and improved the well-being of our society, social workers help the citizens of Temple and the surrounding Central Texas communities to lead more rewarding lives. And now, therefore, I, William A. Jones III, Mayor of the City of Temple, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of March of 2013 as Professional Social Work Month in the City of Temple, Texas. And I call upon all citizens to join with the National Association of Social Workers and the NASW Central Texas Branch in celebration and support of social workers and the social work profession. In testimony whereof I witness my hand and the seal of the City of Temple on this, the 21st day of March of 2013. Thank you very much for the work that you do for our communities. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
We appreciate the opportunity to serve the public. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Mr. Jenkins, thank you for leading us in the pledge this evening. Will you come forward? Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
This proclamation from the Office of the Mayor is to recognize National Safe Place Week. Whereas the youth of the City of Temple will determine the future of our country and be the bearers of our democracy. The youth need a safe haven from various negative influences, such as child abuse, substance abuse, depression and crime, and youth need readily available resources to assist them when faced with circumstances that compromise their safety. Whereas the Safe Place program is committed to protecting the youth of the city of Temple by offering short-term housing at neighborhood locations where trained volunteers are available to counsel and advise young people seeking assistance and guidance. Whereas designated locations where youth can get information and immediate care, Safe Place is found at businesses such as restaurants, convenience stores, movie theaters, and community buildings such as fire stations, libraries, and community centers. Whereas the Safe Place program must meet performance standards relative to outreach and community relations to receive federal assistance as set forth in the Runaway and Homeless Youth Act. And whereas more than 1,500 communities in 39 states administer the Safe Place program at more than 19,000 locations. And this year, Safe Place will celebrate 30 years of helping young people in crisis and strengthening the nation's safety network for youth. And whereas increased awareness will encourage more communities to establish Safe Place locations where youth can readily access the help they need. Now therefore I, William A. Jones III, Mayor of the City of Temple, do hereby recognize the week of March 17th through March 23rd as National Safe Place Week. And I urge all citizens to promote awareness and volunteer involvement in the Safe Place program. The testimony whereof I witness my hand and the seal of the City of Temple on this, the 21st day of March of 2013. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Any comments you'd like to make on the program? Thanks.
For those who
It's on.
okay, for those who don't know what Safe Place is, you see this little yellow diamond on the firehouses, the local libraries. It is just what it says it is. It's a place where young people can go to get some assistance with agencies like the one I work for, Central Texas Youth Services. We are working on building a new street outreach program here in the city of Temple, so I'll be looking for volunteers from as many sources as I can possibly get. So if you're so inclined to volunteer to help kids who are on the streets and need a place to go, get in touch with me and I'll hook you up. And I thank the City of Temple for presenting this to Safe Place.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the work you do. Next item on our agenda is opportunity for public comment. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may sign up to do so prior to the meeting. Public comments will be received during this portion of the meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. No discussion or final action will be taken at this portion of the meeting. And there is no one signed up this evening to speak, so we'll move on to our reports. First report is to receive the Planning and Zoning Commission annual report. And we have the Planning and Zoning Chair with us, Mr. James Stotts, to make that presentation. Welcome, Mr. Stotts, and thank you for the work on P&Z.
I enjoy the work. The things that come before us, eventually most of them come to you guys, and so we're very busy now. And we'll go over some of the highlights, and then if you have any comments or questions, please, any time. A couple of things that we need to go over is that there was initiated annexation of the 2 acres in Will County at the north end of Richland Drive, north of the campus at Lakewood Ranch, Phase 8. Now plans the campus at Phase 7 now planned with the campus at Lakewood Ranch, Phase 8. You see it there on the screen for anybody that doesn't know the location there. The print gets smaller, so
Drag out the glasses.
Unified Development Code text amendments and comprehensive plan amendments. We have 12 text amendments to the EDC in fiscal 2012. We have the creation of a 1st and 3rd Street overlay, a thoroughfare plan amendment for the future Westfield Boulevard and North P Lodge, I-35 appeal change to require City Council approval, the 12 master plan amendments, choice and zoning thoroughfare plan amendments, and will establish procedures to request a conditional use permit for off-premise signs due to relocation. I-35 appeals, of which we are meeting. Planning department processed 7 I-35 appeals. Those are listed, as you saw, Johnson Brothers Ford, Long National Truck, Turner Starbucks, they remodel and they never sign. The old Albertsons remodel, and the Mack Hawk dealership remodel and new construction, and the Johnson Brothers Ford sign. Public hearing cases came before us. There were 21 rezonings, 11 conditional use permits, and 3 plan developments. And those are shown on the map up on the screen. You can see the location of them. They're fairly good spread about our entire community, which is always a good sign. Then we move on to the residential and commercial plats. 35 subdivision plats for a fiscal year of and we had 1 preliminary plat, 22 final plats, 11 minor or amended plats, and those also were spread among the community fairly evenly. That's also always a good sign for a community as you grow in every direction, in every facet of our community. Before I go to the subdivision summary, we do also a little bit of history if it'll compare it to how we've been doing. The residential lots, final and minor plats, we had 925. That compared to 993 last year and 72 in 2010. So we had quite an upswing after 2010. The non-residential lots and minor plats were at 47 this year, 41 the year before, and in 2010, again, they were low at 28. So we all made through that. That gave us a total of 972. Residential acres final plats, 323. Don't have any in that. Non-residential acres final plat 133, and we have total acre final and minor plat of 456 that shows on the screen for us. In the building permits, this was a highlight here, and I want to congratulate staff on. The number I said was 719 with an average review time of 2.5 days. But average review time came down from the previous year. It was 3.7 days. That's a great improvement, almost a third, which helps everybody when we get those things in and out, and especially people who want to come before us and get things moving. That day may not seem like much, but when it's an average, a drop like that surely make a difference. Non-residential number received were 204, and the average days to review that was 3.46. That compares to, I think, 4.7. So again, there was a good drop in the review time. And the size, 133. That average review time for this year was 2.57, and I believe that dropped from 4.2. That was a significant drop. And so that just shows that we're getting a little more efficient in helping the people who want to come to this community and do things, move on with stuff, and we're showing we're kind of friendly towards such things. That concludes my report. I'll take any questions or listen to the discussion.
Thank you, James. Any questions from council, comments? If not, again, thank you for your service. You spend a lot of time, as do your fellow commission members, and not everything that you get involved in comes to the council. I mean, most of your plats you guys handle. You're the final approving authority unless there's exceptions. So you do see a tremendous amount of work, and that we don't necessarily see all of it somewhere along the line. So thanks for what you do. You make a significant difference to our community.
We're trying to find all the hard stuff out for you.
You do it. So that's
the opportunity. The Commissioner asked me to thank you for your service over the years. Your leadership you'll be sorely missed, and all of your contributions won't be fully appreciated for years to come, but we know that you're going to another life and another job. We know you stay busy, but we want to thank you and stop by once in a while. We'd love to see you.
All right. Thanks, James. That's very kind. Thanks. Our next item is to consider adopting a resolution accepting the fiscal year 2011-2012 Risk Management Annual Report. Ms. Elder, you're going to present that for us this evening? Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Gloria Elder, I'm the risk manager for the city. This is my first presentation before council as the new risk manager for the city, replacing Debbie Thompson, who was here for 30 plus years. So, let's see. What this outline, what this report is going to show is the city's losses from the 1st of October 2011 to the end of September 2012. Risk management is the ongoing process of identifying, assessing, and prioritizing the city's risks, which include financial risk, property damage, vandalism, theft, and lost workplace productivity through personal injury. Everything that is insured through the city, vehicles, property, and personnel are reviewed annually. I visit with the department heads to verify that what was insured last year needs to be insured this next year, or anything that we missed to be insured gets added onto the insurance. We just make sure that everything is accurate, and that is still a work in progress. It's something I picked up after Debbie left. All entities that do business with the city also must have a certain insurance and meet certain insurance requirements. Some insurance requirements are workers' compensation, auto liability, or public liability. It varies depending on what work they're doing with the city and what the contract is, from a large construction contract to a simple professional services agreement. Each year, TML looks at the city's claims. TML is our insurance company out of Austin. It's Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool. They look at the city's claims, losses, lawsuits, and base it on a 3-year running average. And that's how they get our rates for the next fiscal year. Rates are broken down into 7 categories, 7 different insurances: general liability, auto liability, real and personal property, mobile equipment, law enforcement liability, errors and omissions, and airport liability. In fiscal year 11-12, combined for all those insurances, we paid $314,430. We have 2 boards that meet each month on the 3rd Tuesday of each month. It's the Vehicle Accident Review Board and the Workers' Compensation Review Board. The Vehicle Accident Review Board reviews all fleet vehicle accidents in the city, and the Workers' Compensation Board reviews all of the work-related injuries. When the board meets, it reviews all of the accidents or injuries and makes determinations on whether the accident or injury is chargeable, preventable, or non-preventable. Upon those findings and those standings, there are certain instances where we will make recommendations to certain department heads on disciplinary action or additional training that needs to be, that needs to be handed down for a certain incident or accident. Fleet accidents, looking at a 3-year comparison of where we are presently, for this fiscal year 2011-2012, which says 13, but it's 12. The city currently has 500 fleet vehicles operating on the road, covering 1,067 miles of paved roads. As you can tell by looking at the chart, there's an increase in our police, our streets, and our police and our streets accidents. Solid waste has declined, and our fire department has remained steady. This next chart that I'm showing you is actually the type of accidents that we're seeing in the Vehicle Accident Review Board. The largest part of that pie is actually the failure to keep proper clearance, and that could be anything from rear-ending someone to not swinging the trash truck out far enough to get around a parked vehicle. You can see from this chart that in 11-12, failure to keep proper clearance has declined in 11-12 compared to 10-11. However, unsafe backing on that fiscal year is on the rise, was on the rise. The board reviews a lot of accidents where there are 2 employees in 1 vehicle, and we believe, the Vehicle Accident Review Board believes one of the ways to prevent this from happening is to have one of those employees get out of the truck and be a ground guide. It's something that we are continuing to see this fiscal year. Our unsafe backing is increased significantly this next fiscal year. This chart, red, white, and blue, shows the top 3 departments over the past 3 fiscal years that have the most injuries. As you can tell, police is quite high, but they don't get to pick who they have a scuff with or who they wrestle with when they're out on the roads. That's something that's beyond their control. These total that you see there for fiscal year 11 and 12 actually represent all work-related injuries, and that's anything from just normal first aid to major surgery or and even amputations that we've had. Looking forward to this next fiscal year and what our board is looking at are ways to reduce our accidents and our work-related injuries. I believe through training we can make this happen. TML, Texas Municipal League, actually provides us with all of their current and job-relevant training. HR and Sandra Esqueda actually has a very good library of training classes, training videos, and training workbooks that can be loaned out to any department that finds a need for that. If they have one that they want one that we don't have, we can certainly contact TML and they'll be able to find one for us either locally or they'll create one for us. Another very important way to prevent these accidents, which we're pushing for this year, is increasing department heads, asking department heads to buckle down on their certain policies that they have in their department and enforcing them as much as they can with the support of the city manager. That is actually a quick review of my first review. It's going to get better with time, but I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Council, questions or comments? Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria. Our next item on the agenda is our consent agenda.
I need a motion.
Oh, these need to be accepted?
Yes, sir.
Both of them?
No, just the...
Just the annual risk management report?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. Item 5, entertain a motion for adopting a resolution accepting the fiscal year 2011-12 risk management annual report.
Make a motion for approval.
Second. Motion is second for approval of the annual fiscal risk management report. Is there no further discussion, Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales? Aye. Mayor Jones?
Aye. Now on the consent agenda. All items listed under this section consent are considered to be routine by the City Council, and they may be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired by the council on any item, it may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member, and it will be considered separately. Tonight, council, this is items 6A through L. Are there any items that need to be removed for voting purposes, presentation, or discussion? And if not, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda 6A through L. Motion for approval. Second. We have a motion second for approval of the consent agenda. There's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales? Aye. Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 7 is the second reading. Consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a zone change from planned development with specific uses of shopping center and housing development to commercial on approximately .52 acres of Creekside Planned Development, Temple, Bell County, Texas, according to the plat recorded in volume 1528, page 813 of the real property records of Bell County, Texas, located at 3602 Southwest HK Dodge and Loop. Ms. Sen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Well, you've seen this presentation and a similar presentation, but I'll go ahead and just kind of go through it really quickly for the benefit to remind us of the conditions of this case and also for the benefit of the public. This is a zone change from planned development with specific uses for shopping center and housing development to commercial. Again, the location is 3602 Southwest HK Dodge and Loop. The applicant is Lamar Signs on behalf of VW Barge. Planning and Zoning Commission considered this on February 19th and recommended approval. This was considered by the council for first reading on March 7th. Again, this is the boundary of the existing planned development that does have some storage warehouses and some multifamily at that location. This current location does not permit off-premise signs. The current zoning does not permit off-premise signs. The applicant has requested rezoning for the purpose that they've indicated to put an off-premise sign. These are some of the surrounding property owners. North, it's zoned PD with specific uses similar to the subject correct. And it's the current location of many storage warehouses. Across HK Dodge and Loop, it is PDGR with some office and mixed retail. To the east, it's again planned development with specific uses for housing development and shopping center. And on the west, it's zoned light industrial. And it's an existing office slash retail building. The future land use map has identified this area as auto urban commercial. Hang on a second. According to the comprehensive plan, auto urban commercial is appropriate for commercial uses. It should be generally concentrated at intersections along major roads versus strip development. According to the comprehensive plan, is the dominant development pattern that you would see on HK Dodge and Loop. And the plan does call for additional landscaping in this area for future code revisions and ask that we incorporate some of these built-to-land landscaping improvements, but those are not actually currently part of what's required. Just to kind of summarize what the UDC, or the Unified Development Code, says about commercial development. Commercial development permits, this would be the proposed line, all retail and most commercial land uses, including auto dealerships, with complete servicing facilities, building material sales, light manufacturing, and heavy machinery sales and storage. The district is intended to serve citywide or regional service areas. This district should be located along major highways and should provide total on-site traffic. And this district should also be located at the intersection of major thoroughfares and highways. This is an example of some of the uses that are permitted in commercial. Retail services and sales uses, utility shop, sales yard or building, auto parts, outdoors, auto storage or auto auction, restaurants, contractor storage and equipment yards, mini storage warehouses, which are less than 400 cubic feet, and off-premise signs. Again, this is just a sample of some of the things allowed in the commercial district. Should be rezoned commercial and be open to the full range of uses allowed in that district. These are some examples of things prohibited in commercial districts, and these are things that take on a more light industrial character or industrial character. Most industrial uses, asphalt or concrete batch plant, wrecking yard, refinery, or chemical plant, all would be prohibited in commercial. This, the proposed sign, the applicants indicated would be located on the site, has met all the dimensional, material, and setback standards required in the CUP, in the Unified Development Code. Had it not, it would require a conditional use permit. It meets all standards of zoning. It does not meet the zoning requirements, which is allowed only in billboards or off-premise signs are allowed only in light industrial, heavy industrial, and commercial districts, hence the rezoning. And this is the project location and image of the proposed sign. And some additional images prepared by the applicant and submitted for consideration. Some of the examples of the proposed sign, how it would be configured on the site in relation to the existing structure. So beginning from the loop as you're traveling west. And another image from the overpass. Again. And this is a sample placement of how it would be visible from the loop if you're traveling east. And some additional images for your consideration kind of gives you kind of objective location of how the billboard relative to an existing billboard and air conditioner on top of an adjacent building. So it just gives you some perspective about how the building will look in relation to some existing landmarks and features. This sign was removed from a location north of Enterprise Road. 9 notices were mailed, with 0 notices mailed back in agreement. 2 notices were mailed back expressing objection to the proposed billboard. One was mailed back from 3216 West Avenue T, and the second objection was mailed from 3520 Southwest HK Dodge and Loop. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning for the following reasons. The proposed zoning is consistent with the future land use map, which identifies this area as auto urban commercial. Proposed zoning is compatible with the surrounding uses, and the proposed zoning eliminates a non-conforming use on the subject tract, providing an appropriate zone designation for the mini storage warehouses currently located on that subject tract. And again, at the February 19th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted in favor, voted to recommend approval of this proposed zone change. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you have, and the applicant is also here to answer any questions that you might have.
Council, questions or comments? Any comments you'd like to make. It's not a public hearing, but as the applicant, you're certainly welcome to speak if you'd like.
Yeah, I did submit some
If you could come up to, yeah, thanks. And just for the record, if you state your name and address. Thanks, Joyce.
My name is Teresa Lane with Lamar Advertising, address 5110 North General Bus Drive in Temple. I know there were some previous questions about how it was going to be relative to the person who actually was in opposition of the sign going up, so I did present some additional PowerPoint presentations just kind of showing that relative. I just want to make sure that there was some good addressing that it's not going to be in a visible obstruction to that location. One second.
One comment I'd like to make is that the applicant was forthright in coming to the council to let us know they wanted to put a sign there. The applicant could have just come and rezoned the property, not even mentioning the sign issue, and then if that was done, the sign could be placed there. So I appreciate you being concerned about your neighbors and where you put that, and I appreciate the additional information you've given us as well. So,
Thank you. And basically, again, this is a zoning case, and it is just all that we're asking. Otherwise, it does meet all of the other criteria as far as setback spacing, everything as far as for a billboard. This is operated as a mini storage unit, which should be supportive of a commercial use here, and that is what we're asking. But to address the concerns for the gentleman that was in opposition, it's my understanding that it was a concern based on visibility, and so I went and redrafted a few other documents to go ahead and show the relative aspects of that. So if there's any concerns that I can help answer with council here presently, I'd be happy to do so.
Okay. Council, do you want to see those again? We saw those at workshop. Any? See that? Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Lang? If not, thank you very much. I know we had discussed in workshop, and a couple of us had spoken with Mr. Steve Niemeyer, who spoke on behalf of the partnership that owns the building, that had expressed concern and that wanted us to deny this request. Again, it's not a request for the billboard specifically, it's a zoning request which would, if granted, would allow them to put the billboard up there, and they have accommodated both in their presentation as well as they've made some changes in the way they were going to construct to be able to address the concerns of the property owner there. But we talked to Mr. Niemeyer, and a couple of us thought that this meeting wasn't going to be heard till our next meeting in April. If there's a desire to go ahead and have this vote tonight, fine, and if council wishes to table this until those in opposition might have the opportunity to speak, you're certainly welcome to do that as well, council. So.
I appreciate the applicant working with us in the past and certainly on this, and because I was the person that actually spoke with one of the gentlemen that had written a letter in opposition, and I was under the impression that we were going to be tabling this anyway. He did not make plans to be here this evening because he was going to be out of town. He didn't have a representative scheduled to be here, and I would personally feel more comfortable with making a motion to table it.
Was that a motion to table?
That was a motion to table.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second to table this item?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to table the item until the next council meeting. And is there any further discussion?
we may ask, in the workshop, the applicant said they couldn't be here at the next council meeting, so it may have to be one even later. So if we could...
Well, it's just one of the members of the applicants, and so if Ms. Lang is able to be here at the next council meeting, we can proceed there as well, even though the other partner can't be here.
Just ask if they both could be here, probably the best thing.
So, and then it's their call if they want to do that. Further discussion? Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales? Aye. Mayor Jones?
Aye. Thank you. Item 8 is a first reading and a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance establishing school crosswalks and setting speed limits within school zones to conform to school schedules. Ms. Teralva. Good evening, ma'am.
How are you today? What we have before you tonight is establishment of an expansion to this existing school zone at Travis Middle School. As required, we do hold a public hearing and make adjustments to the school zones, and TISD has been making some changes to their campus at Travis, and so this item will simply add the 25th Street where you see the red and white dashed lines there as a school zone area, as the parent drop-off will now be facing 25th Street. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is strictly for the hours as stated in the agenda item from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. on school days. The reduction from 30 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour.
Thank you. Questions from the council? If there's not, this item requires a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open at this time. Anyone wishing to speak before the council on this item, please come forward and state your name and address for the record prior to making your comments. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, your pleasure on first reading.
Make a motion for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second for approval of the speed limit change within the school zones. Further discussion, Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales? Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 9 is a resolution to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the purchase of various vehicles in the amount of $104,682. Ms. Mackey.
Thanks, Mayor. You have on the council agenda tonight, you had some vehicles on the consent agenda, about a few vehicles on the regular agenda. In the fiscal year adopted budget for this year, we had 13 vehicles were included for a total dollar amount of $349,407. We did have bids opened on February 19th. There was 9 independent bids for the 14 vehicles. 4 vendors submitted bids. Caldwell Country Ford out of Caldwell, Johnson Brothers Ford out of Temple, Randall Reed's Prestige Ford out of Garland, and Reliable Chevrolet out of Richardson. The consent agenda item included 9 vehicles procured using 5 independent bids where the city's local preference policy did not apply. 6 of the vehicles were recommended for award, and you awarded them to Johnson Brothers. 1 vehicle was non-local, that was to Randall Reed's Prestige Ford out of Garland, and 2 vehicles were awarded to Caldwell Country Ford out of Caldwell. Local preference did not apply to the last 2 bids there. 4 of the bids do have local preference implications. There is a council-adopted local preference policy that states that staff will recommend the low bidder, and then council has the option to consider local preference if the local bidder is within 5% of the low bidder, and if the council determines that there's the best combination of economic benefit and price to award to the local vendor. The bids that have available for your consideration that have local preference options, there's 4 of them. The first bid is one 5-door passenger sedan, which is a Ford Focus, 2 half-ton pickups, F-150s, 1 3/4-ton pickup, F-250, and one additional F-250 that's outfitted a different way. The total local preference options, if you take it on all 4 bids, is $1,575. Fiscal impact-wise, the total budget that we had for all 14 vehicles was $349,407. Staff's recommendation is to award purchase to the low bidders, which is $308,640, for a total recommended award amount if you award local preference would be $310,215. Again, it's 4 independent bids. You can elect to accept the low bids on all of them, one of them, two of them, three of them, or all four of them. Or you can award the local preference if you so choose, based on price or economic benefit. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Matkey. And council, you have from your workshop individual spreadsheet on those 4 individual bids as shown here, showing the total bids for each. So we'll entertain a motion, as Ms. Matkey indicated, for any of them individually or collectively, your choice.
I'd like to make a motion to utilize the local preference option to purchase 4 vehicles from Johnson Brothers Ford for an additional cost of $1,575.64.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second for approval of the purchase of these vehicles using the local purchase option, awarding these 4 vehicles, or these vehicles on these 4 items to Johnson Brothers Ford. Is there any further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Cloud?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider? Councilmember Morales? Aye. Mayor Jones?
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the meeting this evening. Thank you for your attendance and your participation. We are adjourned.
Nice job, Woody.